Hello everyone and welcome to the Doniphan Neelyville Branch Railway. This is a new build that I started on I think a couple months ago. I think back in December, something like that, somewhere around that time. And I started on it because I was getting burnt out on the White River and all that sort of stuff, because that one's a huge project and it's going to take me possibly years at this rate. So whenever I went around, because I like doing realistic stuff, so I like modeling real life railroads and stuff like that. So whenever I went kind of like Google searching around for different railroads and stuff like that, that are very small, I limited myself to around 20 miles of track or something like that. So when I went looking around, I didn't really find many that I liked that were to my liking, that were even remotely operational. So then I started looking at abandoned lines, and that's where the Doniphan of Neelyville came about. It was a real railroad back in the day. It closed back in the 50s. Whenever the Missouri Pacific acquired it, they pretty much had it, ran it for a couple years, and then they abandoned it pretty much. And since then, the track has pretty much just rotted away. It wasn't really dug up. It just was left there. So who knows how much is actually still left today. So my thought process when I saw that was, well, what if it was here today? And on top of that, what if it was an actual operational, railroad? Well, not really just a full-on railroad, but what about just kind of a scenic railroad, where people will come, every now and then, take a train ride from Doniphan down to Neelyville and back. So that's kind of where my thought process came with that. Thus, the route was born. And I gotta say, doing this, I'm really spending a lot more time in detailing each individual area. Like whenever we actually get closer into Neelyville, which is where we are right here, which also connects up to the BNSF main line. I might do something with that, I might not, who knows. But I'm really taking more time to do each scene than what I was on the White River. I'm making sure that things have more detail to them, and that they're more realistic and eye-pleasing. And as you can see, most of the things that you're seeing right now are just a bunch of STRMM trees. I think that's what they're called. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be using on the route a lot. Granted, in the background, forest scenery, or even behind most of the forest, because it is pretty much a forest, forested areas. In the backgrounds, I'll use 2D trees just to keep performance running good. And obviously, since now that the current events that are unfolding in the world are currently unfolding, I'll be working on this probably a lot more. So I don't know, might have another video out in the next week or two, maybe 3. I don't know. I'll try for it. I'll definitely try. So with this, obviously there's 2 towns on it. Well, there's actually a total of 4 towns, but only 2 towns the actual train will stop in. So, and that's Doniphan and Neelyville, point to point. It's about roughly 20 miles, give or take. So I haven't really actually, with what I've placed now, I haven't actually looked at how much there is. But another thing about this is, since this is Trainz and this is kind of my version of the railroad, I have also taken the liberty to kind of add freight operations to it as well. So as you actually saw back in Neelyville, there's a grain elevator there. There'll be a couple of freight cars coming out of it, every couple days, maybe around 10 a week, somewhere around there. Nothing too big, but nothing too small either. Another thing that I'm going to do, since back in the day it was primarily a logging railroad, I'm also going to go ahead and add a logging camp at a place where, when you look at it on Google Earth, it looks like there definitely was something there. Because it's pretty much in a clearing for the most part, but there are trees around it and stuff like that. Trees that possibly they never really got to. So I'm gonna put a logging camp there, and that'll be probably one of its main freight operations, is just logging, which will be interesting to do, because I haven't really done anything like that. So it'll be interesting to model it. Another thing about this is I live quite a ways away from this, obviously, so I don't really know exactly the terrain of it. Granted, you can tell quite a bit from Google Maps, Google Earth, all that sort of stuff. But in terms of like actual track gradients, I have no idea. So most of it, like a lot of other stuff on this route, is going to be just me freeballing it. I guess taking some creative inspiration, I guess is what you would call it, and just making gradients how I see fit. I think the max gradient I have on it right now, because I've done all of it, I think the max gradient that there is like maybe a 2.5% for a very brief amount of time. The longest grade is actually a horseshoe. I call it the poor man's horseshoe curve. That's what I refer to it as. And it's a 1.34% grade around an entire curve. It's like you can actually see it in the video too. Yeah, that's pretty much the majority of the route. I think I'm just gonna model it in summertime. It's modern day as well. It takes place in 2019. Since it being modern day, just kind of putting in what I think should be there. And of course, it never comes to actually modeling the towns. I'm gonna try my hardest with what there is to get them to look kind of like how they do in real life. So, because the power of Google Earth it's mighty. So, yeah, that's. I don't really know what much else to add to this. Ooh, I mean, I guess I could talk about the history of it too, of the actual Doniphan Branch Railway, which is what it's called. It's not too interesting, but I mean, it gives me something to talk about. So it was chartered in 1882, I think July, for the St. Louis Iron Mountain and Southern Railway, basically to connect Neelyville and Doniphan. It was finished in 1883, and then the St. Louis Iron Mountain and Southern Railway took control of it in 1884, and then it was taken into the Missouri Pacific in the 1940s, and then they abandoned it in the 50s. And I've even come up with like an actual background for its restoration, the actual line itself, but I think I'll get into that another time, really, because a lot of it is just kind of thoughts thrown around. Another thing you're also seeing too is me using a lot of the in-game tools. So the in-game measurements, that's really helpful to make the line actually, as long as it needs to be, and also so then I can get, curves and stuff like that down correctly. It definitely is a really great tool that I feel like I need to implement on the White River, but I also feel like if I were to do that, I would have to restart the whole route, which I'm not wanting to do. So it's, like I said earlier, the White River is pretty much on the back burner. It's not a route I'm going to be working on. I haven't worked on it in, since I started on this. So it's been a while. And I think I'll get back to it probably once I get done with this one, which, I don't know, could be... I think if I really sat down and really did it, like spent a couple hours each day, like 2 hours each day working on it, I could probably get it done within about a month and a half or so, maybe sooner. But I'm not expecting to do that. Also on screen, this is around roughly the location in which the logging camp would be. I've already thought of how I'm going to do it. Actually, on the left side of the track is a huge mountain, so that's going to be fun to put in. I don't think I actually went over that. The towns that there are starting from the BNSF main line is Neelyville, and then it goes to Naylor, which is quite a big town. The track actually goes right next to downtown, and it goes right in the middle of the town itself. It's actually a pretty interesting scene. And then Oxley, and then Doniphan. There's like a good 7 or 8 miles from Oxley to Doniphan, or somewhere around there. So it's a long ways from those two. And a lot of it is just a constant uphill gradient, because there's a huge difference in elevation with those two. So yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Definitely check back next time, because possibly in the next few weeks I could have another episode up, possibly even next week. As I definitely plan on working on this more. What I'm going to have next here is actually just a bunch of random clips from whenever I was recording, because I was in a call with a couple of friends. So they're just kind of some funny things that happen while we were talking. It's just, around a minute. Also, another thing about these clips is, I don't know why, but when I was recording this, my microphone sounded like it was deep fried, or along those lines. So I can't really fix it, so you're just gonna enjoy it. Good thing is, I'm not really the one saying the jokes. So yeah, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.